Dr. Colbert here, and I want to give you some important facts about the flu vaccine and the different options. But first, realize that approximately 5 to 20% of the population here in the U.S. will contract the flu. And of those, 200,000 approximately will be hospitalized, and unfortunately, about 36,000 will die. The CDC has been playing a cat and mouse game with the flu for the past 70 years. You see, the flu virus is constantly changing through genetic drift and genetic shift, which means the proteins will change so it outsmarts your immune system, so your immune system cannot form the antibodies to explain how they determine which viral strains will be in the influenza vaccine. There are 141 national influenza centers around the world in 111 countries, and they take all the data and the statistics on which flu viruses are most common at that time of year, and they forecast it and predict which viruses will be present next year. And from this data, they develop flu vaccines. Most people don't realize that there's actually 3 different kinds of flu viruses. There's influenza type A, type B, and type C. The type A and B causes severe flu symptoms of sore throat, fatigue, malaise, high fever, as well as muscle aches and pains and cough. Whereas type C causes very mild symptoms. So that's why it's not included in the flu vaccine. There are 2 main vaccines. There's the trivalent and the quadrivalent. The trivalent has 3 viruses in it. It has 2 influenza A, which is one is the H1N1, the other is the H3N2, and 1 subtype of influenza B. Whereas the quadrivalent has the 2 influenza A viruses and 2 influenza B viruses. Now, these viruses have either been inactivated, which means they're dead viruses, or attenuated, which means they are weakened viruses. And then they're injected into your body. Now, what happens is your immune system forms antibodies that helps to protect yourself against getting the flu. Back in the 1990s, I became aware of a nasty preservative called thimerosal. Now, this was put in most all vaccines, and especially in the multi-dose flu vaccines. In 2001, they either removed or reduced the thimerosal in most of the other vaccines, but it's still present in the multi-dose flu vaccines. And you have to be aware that even though it says preservative-free, it still contains trace amounts of thimerosal because of a new law that says if they can use thimerosal in the manufacturing process and not use as a preservative, you can have trace amounts in there and not have to put it on the label. So what you need to realize is when you go to your doctor, you have to request single-dose flu vaccine, but not the flu virus. That's the only one that contains trace amounts of thimerosal. Now realize thimerosal is a preservative. It kills bacteria and fungi and other microbes. It's used primarily in the multi-dose vials with multiple doses, 10 doses per vial. When you reintroduce the needle over and over, you stand the risk of introducing bacteria or fungi, which can in turn cause an infection in another patient getting a dose down the road. You see, the CDC recommends that everyone 6 months and over get the flu vaccine, but not so in Europe. And according to the World Health Organization, they only recommend the flu vaccine for 6 different groups of people. First of all, children ages 6 months to 2 years, adults over the age of 65, people in nursing homes, pregnant women, as well as people with chronic diseases such as chronic respiratory disease, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, chronic liver or kidney disease, etc. And finally, healthcare workers, and that's it. Those only groups of people, they recommend the flu vaccine, according to the World Health Organization. Okay, so let me give you some options for the flu vaccine. First of all, there's a standard flu vaccine. There's trivalent, which is 3 strains of the flu, or quadrivalent, which is 4 strains of the flu. And be sure and get the single-dose vial, not the multi-dose vial, because that has traces of thimerosal. Now, the next option is an intradermal flu vaccine. And this simply is the least invasive. It barely pricks the skin. It's a much smaller needle, 1/10 the size of a regular needle, and it introduces just a small amount of the vaccine. It's also thimerosal free. And you can go to fluzone.com and type in your zip code to find a location near you. Now, if you're 65 years of age or older, there's the new high-dose flu vaccine. It's thimerosal free, and it contains 4 times the antigenic load, and a recent study by the New England Journal of Medicine found it to be 24% more effective than the standard flu vaccine. Simply go to fluzone.com, type in your zip to find a location. Another flu vaccine option is the nasal spray flu vaccine, or the FLUMIST. It's preservative-free, thimerosal free, It causes no pain. It's indicated for ages 2 to 49, but most beneficial according to studies ages 2 to 8. Simply go to FLUMIST, QUADRIVALENT.com and type in your zip. And the last option is the egg-free flu vaccine. And it has just that. There's no eggs, whereas all other flu vaccines are derived from the eggs. So for those patients who are allergic to eggs, this is a great option. You go to passporthealthusa.com. It's also free of thimerosal. This is Dr. Colbert giving you the facts about the flu vaccine. Now, check out my next video on proven ways to prevent and treat the flu naturally.